Let's jump over to some domestic issues, very important domestic cultural issues that will shock the soul.
Oh, yes.
We have this story from Yahoo Life. Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring of the Daily Wire announced Jeremy's Razors campaign against Harry's.
Oh.
If you guys haven't seen this yet, you've got to watch the greatest commercial ever they released in the Daily
So
Wire.
good.
And it's legit really, really good. Basically, the Daily Wire was sponsored by Harry's Razors. Harry's Razors got tweeted at by a high school kid. No joke. Like a person who said,
Literally
I'm in high school.
2 followers.
And with 2 followers, and said, you guys are bigots. So Harry's was like, we hereby denounce the Daily Wire. So the Daily Wire has launched IHateHarrys.com, and they've launched their own Jeremy's Razors with this commercial. And it's brilliant. Not only is it funny, it's silly, it's over the top. He takes a flamethrower to Harry's and Gillette. He goes after these companies who hate you. Not just Harry's, but also Gillette, saying, men are too toxic or whatever. And now the Daily Wire's launched their own male grooming products. I think it's brilliant for 2 reasons. One, the cultural issue of it, taking back the culture, bringing back comedy. I'm looking at what the Daily Wire is doing. I'm seeing the way they're filming things, and I'm like, this feels very much like 2009, 2010 Vice.
Yep.
When it was edgy, funny, over the top, offensive.
When it was Vice.
When it was Vice.
Well, and so the interesting thing, and I reported a year ago that this was in the works, and I kind of figured maybe it wasn't going to happen. And I'm glad that it did happen because it seems like a silly thing. And I remember when I reported it, I was like, is this newsworthy? But it absolutely is when you think about it, because what the Daily Wire is doing is creating this parallel infrastructure to the so-called mainstream infrastructure. And there, if you look at like Gina Carano, she gets purged from Hollywood. She's a legit actress. She gets purged, and the Daily Wire creates a soft landing pad for her, which then creates more incentives for other people in Hollywood to be open about what they think, because they can land somewhere when they get purged and somewhere legitimate. And so when you create this parallel infrastructure, you create real competition to the monopoly that wokeism has on corporate America. And so that is, I mean, we talk about monopolies and antitrust, but this is like an ideological monopoly, and there's no way to create competition for it because every single corporation is dominated by this ideology, and that's what they're doing.
Well, it's similar to the cancellation arbitrage that we were literally just talking about with sort of the New World Order versus the alternative world order, because sanctions on the international stage, on the domestic stage, is cancellation. And so Russia, China, India building up their own parallel economy, it actually kind of mirrors what we're seeing happening domestically with conservatives or just sort of anti-woke companies and economies of scale starting to be built out, and now supply chains, parallel social media, everything from Rumble to various social media platforms that are being built out. And it's very similar how the mainstream is the one that's kicking people out, but because you've kicked out now so many people, well, that's enough to form a critical mass where you can now build your own structure in your system. So we're seeing it happening domestically with things like this, but we're also seeing it happening internationally.